Feels like we're putting God into a logical box. That's the error. This is the next comment. Desire, logic, and reasoning don't work for God like they do for human beings. Stop trying to fit Hashem into human logic. Ki gavu shamayim ve'eretz ken gavu dorcha medarchechem u'machshavosai mimachshavosechem.
Beautiful. Now tell me, what is the mitzvah of Yedias Hashem?
Knowing that there is a God who created the world, which seems to be the simple implication of Vayadaita Hayom. You should know that there is a God, but to know his essence and that he had no reason and therefore it's essential and you can know his essence, that's the resistance that, as I said, most often people give me.
In other words, you should know that he exists, but don't attribute any reality to it. He exists, but he's a big blank. Well, if your God is a big blank, then gesundheit, go for it. But don't interfere when people are actually learning and getting to know him. In other words, don't get religious about your ignorance.
Because this idea also came to me because in one of the last videos that was posted, I got a few comments. It was we were watching Rabbi Breitowitz's response to the question of does God need or does God desire, and I'm sort of realizing that the videos, people are not necessarily hearing what we're trying to convey, more specifically what you're trying to convey. And recently, like, someone came over to me, a rabbi, and he's like, Yoni, it's time to move on. Move on. And he said, we can never know God's essence. And my response was, of course we can. We can know the Torah. That's God's essence. It's not part of creation. It's part of creator. And then I've had some series of conversations with people that watch that specific video and say, yes, Torah is God's knowledge, but it's not all of him. It's not, the deepest part of him. And I was just wondering now if you could sort of like help me understand the best way to approach the answer. Like, this is one of the comments or a couple of the comments on that video. Somebody wrote, slippery and probably dangerous conversation. There's a distinction between Ein Sof and Ar Ein Sof, the Baal HaRatzon and his Ratzon. The one thing all Kabbalah Sfarim seem to agree on is that we cannot say anything about him. We can only ever talk about what he chose to reveal his Ratzon. Anything else is in the category of Malifnim, in Imratz Libcha Shuv LaMakom. Taking the manifestation of Ar Ein Sof back into Ein Sof is dangerous. Firstly, because it applies our logic to him, which is crazy because Lo Machshavosai Machshavosechem, and secondly, because it begs the question, well, who programmed Hashem to have that desire? Where did it come from if not freely chosen for reasons completely beyond us? And that's why Kadmonim tread very carefully here and say that Ratzon was freely chosen by the Baal HaRatzon, about whom we know absolutely nothing about, and whose thoughts we can fathom nothing, and then proceed to operate within the realm of Ratzon he chose to reveal, working with conscious like Dir B'Tachtainim, or the more delicate Koyach Hagvala Bilti Gvul, super carefully addressing Olam HaMalbush and Tzachtzachos Al Yonos, etc., all within manifestation of will. But again, with all due respect and willingness to be corrected with clear sources that say otherwise, to go back and make a comment about what preceded the revelation of will, and to give a day on that seems like an odd and dangerous thing to do. I would say this sums up from many conversations of people, as much as we try to explain it and break it down, of this is a good articulation of the resistance. How do we ever get past this? And this is exactly what we're thinking about this course could do. Getting to the desire and God's essence.
I think the practical answer is, oh, great. So that's all you know, huh? Good. You're very honest. That's all you know. We know a little more. That's not possible that somebody knows more than you. Who made not knowing Gzeres HaKosov? You must not know. You don't dare to know. Who created that? It's not much different than the atheist who says, how can you possibly know? Oh, you're right. Give it up. Forget about it. I remember in class, the first times that I heard this expression, I would say something, and one of the students would say, you can't know that. Really? I can't? Now you tell me? It's too late. I know it already. You can't know that. What is that? Some kind of a religion of not knowing. The religion of not knowing. You think you know everything about God? No, I don't know everything. Okay, so we don't know anything. Wait, 1 second. The difference between knowing everything and not knowing anything is like there's a lot in between. So where do you draw the line? And you just arbitrarily say, okay, that's it. No more. You live and learn. Tater grows. So without actually answering the question, just dismantling the attitude. It's almost like saying, so you know as much about the Eibishter that Shlomo HaMelech did. You know as much about the Eibishter that Moshe Rabbeinu. What are you talking about? You've got a long way to go before you get to the mystery. Yeah. It'd be nice to simply say, humility suits you very well. You should be humble. And you really don't know. Yeah, that's true. But don't paskin for everybody else. So the assumption is all wrong. You know, the simple answer is Yedias Hashem is a mitzvah. Knock it off. What about what the Gedolim say? What Chazal say? There was a time you were not allowed to learn Kabbalah. Now you are allowed. So you don't have more and new information now than we had before. I think the polite dismissal. If you're content not knowing, so good for you. Enjoy your life. But don't convince people that they don't know what they do know. What kind of argument is that? You don't think you should know? So fine. Don't need to be defensive about it.
Where's that premise from that everyone seems to have that understanding?
There were times when we knew less. More and more of, as we go back, more and more of Torah was mysterious. More and more part of the Eibishter was mysterious. But we're moving forward. Why do you put a glass ceiling on it? Look, you sit and explain something about the Eibishter that makes perfect sense, and they say, "No, you can't say that." What does that mean? Did you hear the logic of it? Do you agree or not? Yeah, but you can't say that. What do you mean you can't say that? What do you? I don't. It's almost like, oh, that makes too much sense. This can't be kosher.
It feels like we're putting God into a logical box. That's the error. This is the next comment. Desire, logic, and reasoning don't work for God like they do for human beings. Stop trying to fit Hashem into human logic. Ki lo machshav yisai machshav yisechem v'lo darchechem darchaynu Hashem. Ki gavu shamayim ha'eretz ken gavu dorcha midarchechem u'machshav yisai mimachshav yisechem.
Beautiful. Now tell me, what is the mitzvah of Yedias Hashem?
Knowing that there is a God who created the world, which seems to be the simple implication of Daita Hayom. You should know that there is a God, but to know his essence and that he had no reason and therefore it's essential and you can know his essence, that's the resistance that, as I said, most often people give me.
In other words, you should know that he exists, but don't attribute any reality to it. He exists, but he's a big blank. You know, if your God is a big blank, then gesundheit, go for it. But don't interfere when people are actually learning and getting to know him. In other words, don't get religious about your ignorance. There's a mitzvah to get to know Hashem. What does it mean to get to know him? To make him sound human. How else do you get to know him? Get to know him means he makes sense. Oh, that's no good. So what's the mitzvah? No, I don't think we should be so. It's hard to be. It's hard to be polite in the response, but yesterday you didn't know Aleph, now you know Aleph. And then you learn Beis, and now you know Beis. Yesterday you didn't know the Eibishter. Today, get to know him. Is there some part of Hashem we'll never know? Well, if we'll never know, we'll never know. But is there more about Hashem that you don't know and could know? Yeah, there is. So be quiet and listen. But if you really want to go to the heart of the issue, what does it mean? You can't make Hashem sound human. There is the biggest mistake in history. The whole olam hafuch, that the human is substantial and real, and Hashem is not. The whole point of Torah is to reverse that. That's klipa. That's or in different words, why don't we understand? Don't tell me we don't understand. Tell me why. Why don't we understand him? He's too deep. So get a little deeper. He doesn't want to be understood. You're not allowed to understand him. What is the problem here? How did the Chachamim, how did the Rabbi the Zal and the Chazal, how did they figure out that if you put up an eight, you're allowed to carry? Where does it say that in the Torah? You decided that if you put up an eight, the Eibishter will allow you to carry? Obviously, we found out more about the Eibishter with the passage of time. And their answer is going to be, who says the Eibishter approves of it? It's just a halachic definition. That's what AI says. God is not a principle. Is not a halachic concept. He has a definite opinion. When the Rabbanim say, this is now a mitzvah, they're saying this is now what Hashem wants, and you didn't know this before. Now you know.